All right, guys, how's it going? Out here fishing California with EBA. We're talking about California, fishing in California, like always. Um, we live in California, so it's what we know. I don't know a whole lot about, the specifics of other lakes and say Mississippi. Doesn't, so today we're going to talk about Lake Tahoe. We're going to talk about the south end of the lake and the north end of the lake. We're going to talk about, a few things. It's low, the southern end of the lake is the California state line, and then the north end of the lake is where you get into the Nevada state line. So this lake is, both. It's kind of, it's really interesting lake. If you have not been there, it's the deepest lake in the state, of California. It's also the deepest lake, on the entire western part of the western part of the United States. So it's a very deep, very large lake, and in that lake resides a few different species of fish that are consistently targeted. Trophy fish, German browns, rainbow trout, lake trout, Mackinaw. These are the primary species that are targeted there. And one of the things we're going to do today is we're going to talk about how to target those species, what to use. We're going to talk about baits. We're going to talk about lures. We're going to talk about trolling speed. We're going to talk boat fishing real quick, and we're going to go on the bank. So we're going to give you a map for how to do it in the boat and a map for how to do it on the bank. So let's start out on the boat. Whether you got lead core lines or whether you got downriggers, whether you're rocking a 12-foot aluminum or you've got a 20+ foot boat, I don't care. You can do the same thing with those boats. Some of those bigger boats are going to handle some of those winds on those certain days a lot better. But either way, you can get away with it. People, really underestimate a 12-foot aluminum boat. You can even go out there in a kayak as long as you're really, really not exposed too much so that you can get back to shore if anything gets too crazy with the wind picking up and such like that. So we're going to talk about trolling at Lake Tahoe for rainbow trout, lake trout, Mackinaw, German brown trout. And there's trophy caliber fish in this lake stacked. I mean, it is like we said, large, deep lake, very cold at the bottom. So we're going to talk really quick. We're going to break down trolling. If you're out there and you're trolling, some of the lures that are very effective and have been consistently effective for some time are going to be large stick baits, minnow type stick baits. Big stick baits, you're going to have plastic or balsa wood. It doesn't matter. I like balsa wood more, but plastic is just fine. You're going to lose a lot of baits because, you're really going to want to, whatever you're fishing, you're going to want to try to get tight to the bottom. So you're going to want to constantly have that lure closer to the bottom rather than further above the bottom. You want that because a lot of these fish tend to hold on the bottom, and they tend to hold in that structure. So if you're not losing a lure once in a while, you're missing out on a lot of fish. I understand you're going to lose an lure. You're losing a lure here and there, but you're catching big fish. You're catching more fish. You're really in the area, the sweet spot, and you need to stay close to the bottom. If you're not losing equipment, you're not doing it right. Second of all, what else can you use besides large minnow stick baits, big stick baits? We kind of are, a lot of people have been doing that, get an F-18 Rapala. They got some other ones. They got some KO baits, but they got a variety of brands out there and they will work. But it's hard to beat the old Rapala F-18 because it's cheap and it works, but proven. But, another thing that really works well out there is just getting a hoochie, getting a hoochie. You can have some kind of a flasher set up ahead of it. You can have for example, some Colorado, some willow, some type of flasher, whether it's bells or whatever it is, Model T, Model A, Ford, Fender type things. You need some kind of flasher ahead of that hoochie, some kind of a Dodger. And I'm talking about large hoochies, not small hoochies. We're not talking small hoochies. We're talking large hoochies. We're talking 6-inch to say 8-inch long hoochies. We're talking very large profile hoochies. And those are actually really effective as well. Sometimes there's a bladed hoochie which has a blade to it. It creates a vibrate. So if you get that hoochie down there, sometimes you don't need those flashers as much when it's got that bill on it. It's a plastic bill, and it just makes it go up down, side to side, and kind of have a very enticing action, and it's very effective. So hoochies, large hoochies, are very effective. Another thing that is really common at Lake Tahoe is people just bouncing the bottom. So they might get a spoon and they're going to bounce it off the bottom. Now, whether that means they're just dragging it, slow dragging it, and they're kind of trolling it slowly, but they're bouncing it off the bottom. It's still making contact with the bottom. Like I said, if you're losing equipment, you're doing it right. You really are. And so, a lot of times that creates a reaction, that triggers a strike. Spoons, I mean, spoons have been around for 3,000 years. Oldest spoon was a seashell. So yes, spoons are highly effective at this lake, and every lake that I can think of, but this lake specifically. Whether you want to troll the spoon on the bottom, like I said, make contact with the bottom, create reaction, or you just want to pop the spoon, jig the spoon, yo-yo that spoon, different, cadences, different variables. So you might do a soft jigging action or an aggressive jigging action. You might put a lot of power, you might not put a lot of power. A lot of times spoon fishing is very finicky. So sometimes these fish become very finicky. And if you pop that spoon too hard or too soft, you're not going to get bit. So definitely try it a few different ways to see what the fish are reacting to at that moment. And so, we've talked about big stick baits, we talked about hoochies, we talked about spoons, and you can go all the way from a little 1-inch spoon all the way to a 8-inch spoon. 8-inch spoons, yes, large spoons. You're talking about big fish that are approaching 30 plus pounds. You're talking about trophy fish, caliber fish that really are hard to find in the rest of the state. So yes, big baits for sure. Some of the other things that have been productive, throughout the years is, wedding rings have been fairly productive here and there, especially for rainbow trout. Not so much for the Macks, not so much for the Browns, but the rainbows for the most part, a wedding ring and stuff like that, everything you'd expect. And as far as, when we're talking grubs, a lot of people overlook a grub and they say, look, it's a grub. It's been out forever. Yeah. So is the spoon, and it's been catching fish forever. So a grub is really effective. And once again, I don't really care if you're using a 1-inch or a 3-inch grub or you're using an 8-inch grub. You'd be surprised how many bites you're going to get on that larger grub. It's got action imparted in it. A lot of times if you get the softer grubs, they're more expensive, but they're going to move better in that cold water. And that lake, the cold water, it is cold, but the further you go down, the colder the water gets. So everything is just getting colder and colder. And if it's already in a colder time of year, it's crazy cold. So this particular grub allows you to still have some action. A plastic grub allows you to have action that you can't get out of a plastic or a wood bait. And that action, that subtle action on that grub is going to entice bites. It's going to trigger bites. It's going to get bit. So big grubs, little grubs, once again, it's hard not to put bigger baits on when you're at this lake targeting big fish. Let's talk for a minute really quick about, some of the old school ways, some of the old school ways for trolling up there, mostly predominantly browns and rainbows, is what you're going to get. You get your flashers, you get your 12 to 18 inch or 20-inch leader, and you put a night crawler or you tip it with a mealworm, but night crawlers are really, really effective. So that's going to get you some bows. That's going to get you some browns. You're going to be able to troll around. You're going to be able to, target top line. You're going to be able to target, below that surface. And then you're going to be able to target, suspended fish or fish on the bottom. But like we talked about, most of these fish, especially the big German browns and all the Macks, they're staying on the bottom. A lot of the bows are on the bottom. So there are going to be some potential bows and browns that are cruising that aren't, maybe the biggest in the lake. You're going to be able to get those top lining at certain times of the year, especially fall and early spring. So right before the lake freezes, right before the lake gets, and right after. Those are going to be the moments when top lining, and it's summertime as well, summertime as well. If you do get some suspended fish for rainbows or such, which would be the main species that would suspend, the rainbow trout, you would find some suspended rainbow trout in the summer. But, I want to focus on big fish as well as potential for numbers. But I really like the trifecta. I like being able to go out and catch a big brown, big bow, big lake trout, Mackinaw, all in the same bait, all on the same day, potentially. Possibilities, I want to have the biggest possible, the most potential with possibility. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of the colors that you really want to target using these, going for these fish. You really want to target these fish using certain colors. So we're going to speak on some of those colors. Some of those colors are going to be like your dark, your normal colors, your browns, your greens, your blacks. Okay. Some of the other colors you're really going to, or purple, some of the other colors you really want to focus on are going to be your cream white, your opaque white, your like a pearl white, or a white bait fish type pattern that's got some glitter or flakes or some kind of color contrast mixed within, so it's not so dull. It's, got a little bit more to it. Little flash, little glitter just sometimes triggers that bite. Sometimes makes that bait a little bit easier for that fish to locate down at a certain depth or in certain water clarity situations. So it's all very, things they're very much dictated by, conditions at the moment, whether it's this time of the year, it's spring, summer, fall, winter, whether it's, clear water or it's stained water, all this is going to make, a big deal. So we've talked and we've covered trolling. And if you guys want me to break down more stuff, I'm talking about, everything that's the most effective. So if you want me to go more, dive deeper into some of the things you can do, we can go into that. We're going to talk bank fishing right now. Bank fishing Lake Tahoe. What do you do? How do you, can you get them on the bank? What do you do to get them on the bank? What do you use? So here's what we're going to bring up, if you're bank fishing Lake Tahoe, you're going to want to find some area where there is some deep water. If you can't get to deep water, because some of the lake is, South Shore especially, not a lot of deep water. There are some areas where it transitions from slow, from deeper water or mid depth to a shallower area. If you can get in those transition areas and bait fish there, or cast from the bank into those areas, those are going to be your hot spots. You can go on the north end. There's a couple great spots, deeper areas, very difficult to maneuver around some of the rocks, some of the terrain, some of the ledges, the cliffs, and etc. Some of the, there's a lot less access on the north end than there is the south end, but it's got the deeper water. So if you want to go out there and you want to cast spoons or you want to cast a spinner, you can get bit. I would tell you to bring a spoon, okay? Because a spoon is just more productive. You can also fish it a couple different ways, so it gives you the option to not just cast it out and retrieve it. You can do a bunch of other things. So a spoon is highly effective. A silver and gold spoon, anything from a quarter ounce, to a couple ounces is just fine. As far as night crawlers, absolutely. Does a night crawler work? It works everywhere, right? And it still works at Lake Tahoe. Yeah. It works, and you can just drift a worm, put a worm on the bottom of, on the bottom of the lake. Fish it on the bottom, fish it suspended off the top with a bobber. You could do a variety of things with that worm, or a mealworm, or crickets, or maggots even, if you've got some food that went bad. No. Believe it or not, maggots are great bait. So, but no, you go out there and power bait's not going to be as effective. You're going to be able to probably catch a fish, a rainbow here and there, maybe on that, but you're not going to be able to catch like incredible numbers or any of those trophy fish on power bait. So I would not advise that. You'd be surprised if you got a piece of Velveeta cheese, you'd actually have a good chance at a rainbow or a brown. You really would. So, a lot of natural type things is what you're going to want to focus on at that lake. Potski salmon eggs, old school salmon egg type things, very natural things in very natural colors are going to get you bit there. There are bows to catch. It's difficult to catch a limit of bows off the bank at that lake. It is slightly difficult. But having said that, man, I mean, they got some quality fish in that fishery. So, getting a 4 to 5 pound bow would be like, pretty common, for let's say you go out there and you get 4 fish every day or 3 fish. One of those fish is going to be 4 or 5 pounds for those bows, and you're primarily catching bows. You're not going to be getting a lot of browns off the bank, and you're not going to be getting very many Mackinaw off the bank, if any. But the bows are there for you. So if you're bank fishing, you're primarily going to be targeting rainbow trout. That's going to be what's most likely to bite from the bank in that particular shoreline type setting. Just be careful, guys, because it's a bit dangerous out there. Some of the terrain, like we were talking about, it's a bit sketchy. And so, if you're out there bank fishing, I mean, it's wild. It's really, sometimes I like bank fishing because you're able to brave certain conditions that you can't brave in the boat. If you've got 30-mile-per-hour winds in the boat, it just ain't really worth it. But if you got 30-mile-per-hour winds on the bank, there are some areas where you can find wind-blown pockets that have some actual protection from the wind sometimes, or not, but you can still brave it. You can get away with it. Your bobber might dance or your pole might be dancing in general, but you can get away with it. So we're going to do another video. If you guys like this video, we're going to talk, more about Lake Tahoe, particularly that region, specifically fishing that region. And, go ahead and you guys let me know if there's anything you want to know, if there's anything I didn't mention, if there's anything that any questions you have, go ahead and shoot them out. I will get back to you as soon as I can with those. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Definitely hope you guys go out there and catch more fish. You should be able to catch more fish. Sometimes just knowing, that's why I make these videos for you guys, is just being able to be on the, if you're on the right road, if you're on the right track, good things will happen. If you're given good information, good things are going to happen. You're going to do well. If you're given bad information, you're given the wrong directions, you're really going to struggle, and it's going to change the experience you have on the water. It's going to, it's going to change that day you have, that day you went out and had the day off and you took your family up there, or you went up there solo. It's just going to change that experience. And just knowing is half the battle. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. Give it a thumbs up, give it a like, subscribe. We, love helping you guys catch fish. We hope you guys get more into fishing and outdoors and just away from all the drama in life. So thanks for watching. Stay tuned.